Hey, I barely got here, and I'm doing the message, so. All right, so come and drop a stone if you want to during the prelude, and then Koa will start us off after that.
Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me, somewhere over the rainbow. Birds fly over the rainbow. Why, oh, why can't I? Upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me, somewhere over the rainbow. Bluebirds birds fly over the rainbow. Why, oh, why can't I?
Good morning. Welcome to the gathering at Northern Hills. My job is easy today because I can at a glance see that there are 9 of us here in the room and a few in the other part of the building. It's great for all of us to be here today. And I won't say the visitors blurb since I can see that there are no visitors unless there are some on Zoom. If you are, when we come to you, let us know so we can get to know you. Might as well do that now. Who all do we have? Marty and Mel and Suzanne and Ruth and Alan's back there. Is there anyone else? It goes down lower. Go ahead and tell us who else is there.
Let's see here. Dottie Flannery Higgins, which I'm not familiar with. Linda Catasti, Marty, Mel, Noreen General, Ruth, Sally, Sue, and Suzanne.
So does that mean we have some visitors maybe? Donnie and... I can't read that one.
Nope. All known.
Okay. Well, welcome to you, whether you're new or not. Let's see. I'm Koa, and I have been here for more than 10 years. We are a Unitarian Universalist community. In this liberal spiritual tradition, we are not bound by creed, nor conform to an enforced common identity. We do embrace each other and our world in its plurality of expression. Honoring the interconnectedness of all living things and their shared dependence on the abundance of our world, we practice gratitude and generosity. We seek justice and equity for all, working for systems that realize those qualities. We support one another as we face the challenges of transformation that our world presents. Being together in community and believing freely, each in our own way, we share this journey of becoming and uphold the wisdom that we must always be loving, for it is love at the center of these principles that sustains our heed to their call. And if you or anyone watching this later are called to engage your journey in like manner, you too are welcome to make this a place along your journey. We frequently begin by citing some of the things that have happened on this day in history. And this segment of our service today is deliberately informative and apt and also a little funny. I decided to try to find some things in history that actually went well with our message today. And when I went to the tab where I keep the On This Day in History thing loaded at all times, I hit the little refresh button and it reloaded, and so I proceeded. I discovered after what I found that I thought was really cool that I was still looking at November 9th, which was the last day that I did this. So I'm going to tell you the thing I found on November 9th because it was kind of cool anyway. The Berlin Wall was built in by the East German government in 1961, essentially to stop refugees arising from the civil unrest with the Soviet intentions regarding East Germany from fleeing into West Germany. That's the simplest compression of that history that I can do. It was in 1989, on this day, technically the 9th, not the 30th, that the Berlin Wall was opened. And the last remnants of its demolition were removed in 1992. And I wanted to keep that because it's just a good thing to remember, that there is good that comes out of the things that we fight against. Here are two events that actually did happen on November 30th that I found that were directly illustrative of the kinds of debate that can arise over the relationship between good and evil and between altruistic and oppressive actions by human beings. In 1842, on November 30th, the Treaty of Nanking is signed, ending the First Opium War. Britain forced China to cede Hong Kong, open 5 treaty ports, and pay reparations. The treaty ended open-fire conflict, but imposed humiliating terms on a sovereign nation, sparking nationalist resentment that later fueled Chinese reform movements. And in the little assistance that I got, the thing that tied this together is that it illustrates how peace negotiated through coercion can embed lingering resentment, a vivid example of how the good, ending a war, can be achieved through evil, the use of unequal power. Another thing that happened in history on November 30th was in 1939. The Winter War begins as the Soviet invades Finland. I thought this one was especially cool. Despite overwhelming odds, Finnish forces mounted a fierce defense, earning international admiration for their sisu, which apparently means determination. The conflict highlighted the moral paradox of a superpower seeking security while violating another nation's sovereignty. So again, we have this balance between things that are done, the altruistic coming together of a huge number of people to save their nation, amidst the impressive force of something we would think of as evil. And for a few of the sundry events that happened on November 30th, movie directors Ridley Scott and Woody Allen were both born in 1937 and 35, and Winston Churchill in 1874 was born. And on this same day, George H.W. Bush and Evel Knievel died. Oh, and Michael Jackson released the Thriller album. All right, let us now honor the light that shines within each of us and brightens when we are together by having Nada light our chalice today.
Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy. Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy.
inner monitor, which always is active when I'm up here to slow down, says I was a little fast at the beginning part. Joined in this space and coming together in the mindfulness of the sacred, we open with a set of quotes, 3 in particular. I have to do a little jumping around here. Rumi, in a 13th century poem, said, "Good and evil are not 2 sides of a coin. They are the 2 faces of the same stone, shaped by the hands that hold it." Rebecca Solnit, in a work called The Mother of All Questions, said, "If we ask whether there is a real good or a real evil, we may discover that the question itself is a story we tell ourselves, a story that can be rewritten." And John O'Donohue, who was praised for his ability to take things that are meant to seem black and white and realize their complexity, said, "The universe is not a battlefield of light versus darkness. It is a tapestry of interwoven threads, each one holding a different hue." And, sorry, I don't have my computer and I have to jump quickly into these here quick. All right, so let us stand if you are willing and able, and we will sing our opening hymn.
Find a stillness, hold a stillness, let the stillness carry me. Find the silence, hold the silence, let the silence carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony. Seek the essence, hold the essence, let the essence carry me. Let me flower, help me flower, watch me flower, carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony.
Please remain standing and join in our unison affirmation. We pledge to create a welcoming community that celebrates human diversity, encourages spiritual growth, fosters responsiveness to our world, and commits to the future of all children. We have the pleasure of GNH member and our music director speaking with us today about good and evil and the right ways we can engage with the questions it raises.
Good summary, good quotes. They go well with what I'm saying today. As with most of my messages, I offer no real advice, and really what this is the musings of a deeply troubled and overactive mind. But thanks for having me here today, guys. I know this is I feel like the Sunday after Thanksgiving is like always one of the hardest Sundays for me to get up and get here. So thanks for being here. All right, so you might be wondering why I played Somewhere Over the Rainbow. When I was a kid, one of my favorite movies that I would watch on repeat was The Wizard of Oz. The old classic movie with Judy Garland. I liked when the house went up in the tornado, and I liked the singing. I didn't pay too much attention to the actual story of the movie, but probably watched that movie 100 times. And I remember, even from when I was very young, my mom would watch this movie with me, and she would say that the real villain of the story is not the Wicked Witch. From the witch's perspective, Dorothy comes out of nowhere, crushes her sister with her house, steals her sister's shoes, and then frolics off with her dog, leaving a considerable amount of destruction in her wake. My mom always said that the real villain of the story was the wizard himself. He lies, he hides his true identity, and manipulates a child into murdering a supposedly dangerous witch. And if it is true that the witch is evil and possesses magical powers, he was placing Dorothy, a child's life, in serious jeopardy by sending her on this quest. The wizard has presumably profited and taken advantage of the fact that the people of Oz look to him as an all-powerful being capable of protecting them all. But as we learn in the movie, it's all a facade. The wizard has no real power other than his power to tell a story. He's only as powerful as his influence over other people to do his bidding. His privileges and his station are held up by the toil and the suffering of the subjects whose services he has rendered via deception. Doesn't that sound like a villain to you? This all comes to mind because, as you guys probably know, my recent viewing of the movie for the musical Wicked just came out, which I love that musical. And I watched that movie recently, and it reminded me of this interesting layer. And for those of you unfamiliar with the musical Wicked and the book Wicked, it's about the backstory of the wicked witch Elphaba and the good witch Glinda. And without getting too much into detail on that story, it explores this concept of what it means to be good, what it means to be wicked, and how the perception of these virtues can vary widely from person to person, culture to culture, depending on your perspective. So lately, I have been thinking, do absolutes exist outside of our eternally subjective interpretations of them? What does it mean to be good in the true sense? And what does it mean to be evil in the true sense? And the question that really plagues me, if true good and true evil do exist, is it actually all that good to be purely good? That question might not make sense right now, but bear with me, and I think you'll understand what I mean. The great challenge of any discussion of ethics is that there is no hard, objective reference point. The reality is that what is considered just, fair, and ethical is greatly dictated by the ever-changing societal norms of whatever culture is in question. In ancient Sparta, it was widely accepted to leave unfit infants to die due to exposure to create a stronger warrior populace. In Rome, gladiatorial combat to the death was a completely normal, even child-friendly public spectacle. Even here in the U.S., what is considered just has changed considerably. The Bible used to be used to justify racism, still used to justify misogyny, bigotry. Believe it or not, history tells us that the bigotry that goes on today is actually nothing compared to the divisiveness that was at one point widely accepted as fact in our country. So how do we battle the decay of truth? After all, the truth is simply just what everybody agrees on. The whole of human society absolutely hinges on our ability to believe in things and ideas and concepts that don't really exist, aren't really true in the truest sense. It is an absolutely crucial part of human evolution that we can accept untrue things as facts. It is possibly the most powerful and important adaptation that the human race has ever developed. And let me try and explain what I mean. All great accomplishments that have been achieved by humankind, whether it be inventions or creation of empires or building of buildings, have happened because of some large group of people's ability to unite behind a cause. A small group of people may be briefly united by a mundane purpose, i.e., building a fence together or even raising a family. But the only thing that can bring together thousands and thousands and millions of people is a story, a fiction. When everyone agrees that something like the United States of America does, in fact, exist, they can rally behind the common cause, that story, and immediately have millions and millions of teammates that share a reality together. They share a similar goal and purpose. But what exactly is the United States of America? Is it the land that we stand on? Is it the people? Is it the government? Is it a concept? I would argue that things like countries, religions, even corporations are actually just narratives, fictional narratives at that. A corporation that produces food, for example, is just a story that a bunch of people keep telling. The people that work for the corporation work to make that story materialize in the world, but the corporation itself isn't the food that the company produces. It isn't the factories. It isn't even the people that work in the factories and offices. The corporation is just the entity that contains a story of what it does and what they make. And how often is that story actually congruent with reality? A pharmaceutical company, for example, may tell a story that it's committed to providing treatment to all people to make the world a healthier and safer place. Doesn't that sound like a commercial you've heard sometime? While it is true that medicines are produced, ailments are treated, and pharmaceutical companies are to thank for that, would you agree with the objective truth of that story, that pharmaceutical companies exist to help and treat all in need, to make the world a better place? Are they really out to improve the world? Or is it instead a bit of a lie that a bunch of people agree on because it's a whole lot better than just not having medicine at all? How many great nations would have never arisen or would now collapse entirely if everyone suddenly stopped believing in the untrue nationalist narratives that we tell ourselves? In order for the American Revolution to have succeeded and our country to become what it is today, we needed to believe in something that didn't exist. We needed to believe in a story of a great and powerful nation, not united by a king, not by a religious regime, but instead simply by a common need for our right to freedom. Is that story congruent with reality? Debatable. I won't get into that right now. But the point is that a good story has a lot of power. It is one of our great gifts and our great curses that we are so inherently primed to believe in the stories we tell. It is for this reason that I think we have to be very careful about the stories we tell, and not just to others, but to ourselves as well. So what is the story that you tell yourself about what it means to be good? I love that quote that you had. That was, what it is to be good is just a story that you tell yourself. And when I reflect on this, I honestly think back to that old first UU principle, for me personally. Being good to me means honoring the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Maybe some of you in this room mostly agree with me, but the reality is that if you asked 10 different people this question, you would likely get 10 different answers. While some people may disagree with me, and that's fine, I don't believe that God, the universe, the original entity, the great mysterious force, has an agenda that could be described as simply good or evil. To me, God just is, and that's it. God gives us the ability and the privilege to design and create a world that better fits us every day. Simply bestowing a creed written in stone would never do. Any all-encompassing force that is present in the very fabric of reality would have to resign itself to the fact that nothing ever stays the same. So the rules themselves must have the ability to change. So, does evil exist in the universe? In a way, yes, it does. Because we have assigned that meaning to certain personality shortcomings, maybe a lack of human empathy, excessive cruelty, greed, or when I think about it, I think traits that involve means for asserting dominance or control over other people. And as long as most people agree on an approximate definition of evil, it exists. To me, this realization is both comforting and terrifying all at once. On the one hand, it implies that evil is not some insurmountable, mysterious, and unstoppable force that has bestowed some kind of supernatural resilience. Evil is just a human creation, and like everything else created by humans, it can be destroyed, or perhaps more accurately, transformed into something unrecognizable. As we know, matter and energy cannot be created nor destroyed. But on the other hand, it implies that we have no one to blame for evil but ourselves. The fact that evil even exists in the definition we've given here forces us to confront what is the reason for its existence. When I think about this, I remember being younger, maybe about 17 or 18, and learning about libertarianism. The concept of I'm sure you guys know what it is. The concept of society that holds personal freedom above all else and allows people to work cooperatively together without a large oppressive government or really any kind of governing body. After all, the federal government is corrupt and no longer holds the interest of its people at its core any longer, right? The idea of this free society was appealing to me, mostly because I was young, naive, and idealistic. Is such a society possible? Yes, in theory it is, but the world is a complicated place. People don't act predictably, or usually out of places of rational decision-making. They don't do the things they do because it's what's best for the world. It's what's best for society. People live inside of stories. People believe in stories. People tell stories. And a lot of times, these stories aren't really all that congruent with tangible facts of reality. It's human nature to get a little lost in our stories. It's actually really important to being a human that you can get lost in your stories. There's really no point in beating ourselves up about it. I suspect that humans will continue to get a little lost in our stories for a long, long time, possibly until we're all gone. And I find myself getting lost in a story I tell myself sometimes. And this is why I think that libertarianism doesn't really work. I tell myself the story of Michael, the good person. I like for the main character of my story, me, to be a good guy. I think that most of us can relate to that, right? We like to think that we make choices that are out of respect, out of consideration. Well, okay. I think people here, maybe not everyone, but most people here. I really try to live my life in a way that I'm not harming others. In fact, I overthink and overanalyze every interaction, trying to do as little damage as possible. In fact, I agonize over how I could be better spending my time to accomplish more things that are for my own good, or perhaps the good of the world at large. I make myself sick thinking about all the chances I didn't take to be a better person, all of the times I didn't live up to my full potential. I sometimes feel paralyzed with indecision because in my story, it is vitally important that I don't make the wrong decision. After all, my character is the good guy. The good guy doesn't choose incorrectly. Sometimes I feel a weight pressing on my chest, on my back, on my shoulders, the weight of the decisions that I carry with me always. Sometimes I feel like there is no room for compromise. Sometimes the lines between good and evil feel very clearly drawn. I am sure that evil exists and that it's my job to fight it. And sometimes I fail, and it feels like I'm taking one step forward and 2 steps backwards. Sound familiar? And what good does that thinking get me? Perfection is the enemy of progress, I think. Is it really all that good to be purely good? Or does an unflinching, rigid, and stubborn righteousness merely halt progress? I'm not a completely good guy. I've done things that I think we could agree on, have a shared truth, are bad, just bad. No silver lining, no excuses, just bad. I've made poor decisions. I've caused people pain. I have regrets. I think about them often. If you relate to these statements, congratulations, you're human. If you don't relate to these statements, congratulations, you're a liar. We can't go through life pretending that the evil side of us doesn't exist. We can't exist together in a peaceful society until we understand, accept, and deal with our inevitable flaws. I've noticed this troubling trend, especially amongst us progressives, if you will. A trend of needing to be so perfectly unjudgmental. It's almost like we've gone full circle into being extra judgmental of maybe ourselves, maybe anyone who isn't non-judgmental like us. We alienate the people who don't agree with us. I hope you know that, everyone. It's true. I say this knowing full well that I have done it to people who have differing views to me. I didn't necessarily do it with ill intent, but the damage is done nonetheless. The stories we tell are powerful. They have the power to become real. You have heard the story that you tell yourself so many times that it's your truth. But that's not the same story that your MAGA preaching relative is telling themselves. And when you meet for that Thanksgiving dinner, those realities clash. Those stories conflict with each other. And you feel so passionately about your story because it is your reality. And they feel passionately about theirs because it is their reality too. It's truth. The results can be explosive. It can fracture relationships and burn bridges that could have been possible connection and growth. But I think that there are ways of arriving at a common truth that are productive, even when dealing with people whose values seem diametrically opposed with your own. I guess what Diane was saying last week really stuck with me about the, what was the Star Trek race that didn't speak the same language? I forget what they're called now. I'm sorry. But she talked about meeting people where they are, right? Speaking the language that they speak. I think it's really, really important to remember that the truth really is just what people agree on. You'll persuade a lot more people to be accepting, empathetic, and loving by just agreeing that their story is theirs. Whether that story makes any kind of sense to you or whether it's congruent with your reality is mostly irrelevant. As long as we can all agree on the fact that we have our own story, we have common ground no matter what. Maybe the best we can do, the best good we can aspire to, is to meet each other's stories with curiosity instead of fear, with compassion instead of contempt. And if there is a path toward a shared truth, it will be built not from absolutes, but just from listening to what each other are saying. And perhaps in doing so, we can create a story that we all believe in together. Thank you so much, guys. And I welcome your comments if you have any.
Hello, Michael. Thank you very much. Wow. Let me be the first to say, when you do the review for the end of the year of all of our messages, that I would like to put my vote in for this as the best message of the year.
Thank you.
Really, really, really good. And
Thank
like
you.
every third sentence you said was just a punch in the gut for its rightness, for its inspiration to what to think about. And like the opening, that the only real power is in the stories we tell, and that a person who is leading by doing that, his only real ability to do that is by influencing the people around him with those same stories. Does that sound like anything going on?
Absolutely.
And your ending, the best way we can meet each other at the same table is to hear each other's stories with curiosity instead of fear. If there is a solution to the lack of absolutes, it is that meta-observation that all truth comes from the stories we agree on. And wow, I'm blown away. Like I have 1,000 things going through my head, and so much of what you said to identify with, I felt like you were describing me when you talked about the overthinking. I recently read about, to speak in very abstract terms, a group of people that were separate from the rest of the world in kind of an experiment, and I'm trying to figure out how this tied in. I've lost it kind of now, but it ended with the same idea, that the thing that defines us is the things that we agree on, and that there isn't an absolute. In all my readings of people like Stanislaw Grof and the other such things talking about the divine and its nature, there's this exploration of whether there's good and evil, whether there's evil, anything that seems like it's against something else. And the answer there is that, like you said, the divine is everything. And its curiosity to explore all included the things that might, to one part of that everything, seem like the opposite. And just this morning I was listening to a kind of meditation on suffering, and for a minute I connected with that feeling that I'm not me, I'm just one viewpoint of all of it being experienced. And from that viewpoint, my suffering might be the opportunity for something else to feel like it did good for something. And so if I don't think of it as me, then I don't suffer, because I think of just the viewpoint of the many things going on that are all interrelated. And it's hard in a quick response to make all that tie in, but it ties in very much with what you said. Like, that's really profound stuff. And how you could have just had the random musings of a troubled mind produce this is a disservice to your talent. Thank you.
Thanks, Koa. That's a really interesting perspective about we're all just a viewpoint of the same share. I mean, I think in a literal sense, it's true, right? I mean, matter is mutable. It just changes from one state to another. That's really all we are, right? So I think that there is actually scientific proof that what you're saying is true. Yeah.
Michael, thank you. As always, you give us so much to think about. I believe philosophers use two basic arguments for the existence of evil. One is simply that if good exists, then evil must exist. It's the other side of the spectrum, and that's the only proof you need. The other proof they point to is the phenomenon of entropy, that what's basic in our physical world is that everything manufactured, made by man, degrades. And one of the takeaways I had from your talk is really asking myself the question, does entropy only apply to the physical world, or do human narratives and human stories also degrade? Inevitably, do they kind of fall apart? And the third thing, and this is kind of just my own thinking and it's related to some of the things that Koa said, was if we don't think of a spectrum of good and evil, but rather a circle driven by entropy, where absolute good and absolute evil meet and they are exactly the same. And let me tell you what I mean by that, is that if everything is required to break apart, eventually entropy says that physical reality disappears into energy, and separation of parts no longer exists. It's connection to energy. So you get disintegration, 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 integration, integration. So what starts as what philosophers might say is an evil process of entropy actually turns to a positive thing of integration. And so I think that's really where you kind of got me thinking anyway. But particularly the idea is that maybe entropy applies to human stories as well as human construction.
I think it absolutely does apply to human stories. You know, it's almost like the way stuff gets changed when it goes through, like when you're playing telephone, you know, because every time you tell that story, it's changed a little bit. And through the process of time, it just evolves, and it's up to us to use our energy to keep those stories maintained, right? Maintain them into something that is useful. Yeah, I love that. I love that. That's great.
When you talk about opposites like good and evil, I think of something that I heard a long time ago. You think of love and hate, and the definition that I heard, or the opposite, is the opposite of love is indifference, total indifference. The opposite of hate is total indifference. So that you've got a spectrum there where, if you really think about it, it does make sense.
Yes. You're right. And that spectrum isn't a line, right?
Nope.
It's maybe a triangle or a circle, maybe. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, I've heard that too, and I love that. Yeah.
So once I read this book, right, by a Catholic priest, it was about evil, good and evil and everything. And I'm pretty sure he used the evil doer as the most, like 30 times at least. Like, it was treating like that everyone that did wrong to you was just them and only them. When I think that most situations actually have a mix of, no one's usually totally not guilty. But like when I was thinking about how to get people on our side, I always think I was thinking about probably J.K. Rowling. You know, we disagree with her, but I feel like the way we're doing it is never going to change her mind.
Yeah.
It's just going to Skinner and further in her corner.
Yeah, that's what's hard, is that if you simply reject the stories that other people are telling, right, you make no progress whatsoever. Yeah.
I will resist responding to every single thing every person said because it's all really fascinating. We could talk forever. But Tom, you brought something into focus for me that I hadn't thought about before. The disintegration circle of evil is the breaking apart of the good so that a new good can begin to integrate again. That's Shiva Nataraj. The idea that the destruction and the creation are the same thing is sort of abstract, and it makes sense, but it doesn't get the gut. But you said that, and I was like, that's it. That's why it's the same being that represents those two processes. That's really fascinating. Wow.
Guess what creates and then destroys? Nature.
Yeah.
Little leaves out there, they'll be good eventually. Anybody on Zoom?
And then we have Anne also wants to say something, but yes, anyone on Zoom?
I think there's another piece for me in all of this, and it really has to do with I think from the time that an infant is born and begins to bond with the mother, and you watch that, and you watch something that's not created by a story particularly, and all the way through life to, I've worked in nursing homes, and I've seen the people who figure out how to be there for other people even though they themselves are in the nursing home. And I think there's love, and I think it's love that brings the curiosity and the compassion that you talked about, not the story, but the process of listening to the story has to do with something that isn't any of this other stuff. It's something beyond all that, and that's the universal, that's the great universal spirit. I mean,
Yes.
it's beyond stories.
Yeah.
It's mystery.
It is, yeah. There's a connection between everything, right, that exists. Yeah. I like that, yeah.
Just really quickly, one thing that Sue said and Andrew said that sparks a recollection for me in talking about people who are indifferent. In the Divine Comedy, in the Inferno, Dante is talking about people that fail to choose good or evil, that stay indifferent. And he said, heaven cast them forth to keep its beauty from impair. In the deep hell receives them not, for even the damned shall have some glory over them. So.
Wow. All right. Thanks, guys. Moving on.
Sorry. So I don't know how it's possible, out of all the times that I've made jokes about it and put things in my notes to make sure I didn't do it, that I still forgot the announcements at the beginning. Maybe we're discovering a new place to do the announcements after we've had the message and everyone's paying close attention. Now we can tell you. There really isn't a lot to announce today, and everyone pretty much here knows what's going on, but next Sunday, Sue and I are going to be doing something for Christmas about hope, and the Sunday after that, this one's important, the 14th, is our annual congregational meeting. So make sure you're here and tell all your friends who are part of this congregation that we need people to show up. The rest I'll let you just look at in the flyer insert. And of course, we know that this space and the work we do to create all that makes it home to us, as well as the work we do in the world at large to live our principles and create transformation, require resources. And we contribute as we are able to sustain that collective vision. Since there are no visitors here, I will say to all of us, give until it hurts. But don't let the basket pass you by. And Michael will play some music for us while we do that. And our baskets are not up here.
There is a house in New Orleans they call the rising sun, and it's been the ruin of many a poor boy. Dear God, I know I was one. My mother was a tailor. She sewed my new blue jeans, and my father was a gambling man way down in New Orleans. And the only thing a gambler needs is a suitcase and a trunk. And the only time he's satisfied is when he's drunk. Oh, mother, tell your children not to do what I have done, to spend your lives in misery in the house of the rising sun. I got one foot on the platform and another on the train, and I'm going back to New Orleans to wear that ball and chain. There is a house in New Orleans they call the rising sun, and it's been the ruin of many a poor boy. Dear God, I know I was one. Dear God, I know I was the
We receive those gifts with gratitude. You know, I have this little blurb about the important part of community is the connections that we build with one another, and we do that talking about the things that are going on in our lives, but what we just did is another example of that. The fact that I will always remember that my integration of the meaning of Shiva Nataraj came from this dialogue with you and Tom and Michael in this message. This is a great community. We're lucky to have it. So, share joy swells and sorrow is lightened by sharing it. This is the time to share that with each other.
We had a nice surprise on Thanksgiving. I have one daughter that lives here in town, and we were going to have a very small Thanksgiving thing, just Emmy and my husband and I. My other daughter in Texas, she and her husband recently lost a pregnancy that they had worked very hard to get, and they decided that they weren't coming home for Thanksgiving, that they needed to go someplace to heal. This was about a month ago when they had the loss. I thought that's okay. Go to the mountains and just go heal yourselves. And so Thanksgiving morning, About the time my younger daughter always runs late, and about 15 minutes before she was supposed to arrive with her contribution to our very small feast, the doorbell rings. I go, boy, that's unusual. Emmy's never early. And I went to the door, and my daughter from Texas came busting in. And her husband was a few feet behind her, so it was really good because we got to give hugs that we needed to give a while back, and it just was totally unexpected, and it was just so good. They're meeting friends for lunch, so that's why I wasn't going to come here today because we've got company from out of town. They're leaving tomorrow morning before the birds wake up, I think. And but it's like I needed to come to say how good it was.
I love that story, Vicki. As we come into this season, I've been thinking about how it feels in light of what's going on, and what I've been noticing is that there's all kinds of beautiful things happening anyway. That rightness and healing is still going on, even though the world might be in what seems like a mess. So that's a very good example of that. Thank you.
Well, I got an invitation for Thanksgiving. I have cooked one turkey in my life in my 20s, never again. Too much work. But I got an invitation from friends of a friend. So there were 9 of us, the couple and 2 or 3 of their kids. An amazing meal. This woman's an amazing cook. And of course, afterwards, the husband, 68, has been playing the card game Rook since he was 6 years old. We played Rook. I'm sorry, I'll stick to Uno. And also, yesterday, I saw for the second time the current movie out, Nuremberg. I recommend it. The story of this Douglas Kelly, the psychiatrist that tried to get to Herman Goring. It's amazing.
I know I've told you about the bench that I had made for Richard in the Cranes Run Park. Last Sunday was a pretty day, so on the way home from church, I decided I'd go to the park and sit on the bench. And when I got there, it was so perfect. I had parked my car and I was heading down toward the riverfront, and a couple came walking by and went across the grass toward the bench, and they stood in front and they looked at read the plaque, and then they took each other's hands and sat down. And they sat, the bench probably holds 5 or 6 people. It's a long bench. They were butt to butt, just as close as they could get on the end of the bench. And I thought, that's what the bench is for. The bench is for people who want to sit and be together looking at the river. And so I waited and waited and waited for them to leave so I could go sit on the bench. I didn't want to join them. I just wanted them to leave so I could go sit on the bench, and they never left, and so I left.
And that's a great story.
I think we have Suzanne on Zoom.
Yeah. Suzanne.
Go, Suzanne.
Well, my joy today is that there are many people on Zoom, apparently. I see 8 or 10, or I don't see 8 or 10 of them. I only see 4 on my screen. That's a concern. But I just wanted to say thank you that there are so many people on this side today. And just let some people know that Alan is always wonderful to allow us a few minutes to speak after the service. We generally wait until after the postlude is played and the recording goes off. And if you would like to join us and exchange a few words with the other people that you're looking at, please stay and join us. While everybody else has Thanksgiving leftovers.
I've got this is the first time in a long time that our whole family's been together. The bigs, as we call them, that's the 19-year-old and the 18-year-old, were home from college. And the littles, that's the, 15, almost 16 now, and the 14-year-old. And that's good news. Now, we did have Thanksgiving on Friday because it was not my daughter's turn to have the holiday. So those of you that have divorced children, know what that means. The only sadness I have is the older granddaughter that you know about has gone through and seems to be doing fine. Is coming home from the airport, we had a traffic jam. There was water on I-75. I said, how in the hell did it get there? But it took us an hour to get from the airport back. And so we had time to chat. I don't know what you do with a zealot. She still thinks that she's been mistreated, blah, blah, blah. And I don't, maybe Tom has advice on that, dealing with young people. And we still now have a fear that she'll make it till December 31st, but, you know, she's got a long memory. And she's still involved with an organization that does that and is calling people, encouraging them to, you know, for the sanctuary university. So we're not sure she's learned her lesson yet. So that's the sad news. And I don't know if, maybe I haven't, or yeah, Tom's right. Maybe yeah, get with it, Papa. So anyway, we still have the worry. But luckily she only has one more year. She's got 2 semesters and 3 semesters to go. So maybe we can suppress it enough.
There was a wonderful documentary last night on PBS on Peter, Paul, and Mary, and 50 years of Peter, Paul, and Mary. And it was fascinating to me, speaking of your daughter, of how many things that they responded to. I mean, they went to South America, they went to immigration, and the latest thing is to going into schools and singing for kids about things that really matter. And so maybe she's on to something, that's what I have to say. But the thing I wanted to bring up is we had 2 wonderful Thanksgivings, one with Tom's extended family and one with my more immediate family. And everybody was, you know, in most cases, people were well and doing fine. But among that, along with a friend of mine in Pittsburgh, both have children in their grown-up adult children who are in their 40s, probably late 40s. But one has acute lymphoblastic leukemia that's just started on like Halloween. I mean, that's when they found it, and it's very fast. And the day before Thanksgiving, she had another one of the chemo rounds that's very severe. And at the Tom's reunion, there was a man there, and he goes tomorrow for surgery on cancer of the colon. And so keep those people, please, in your prayers, and be thankful for the people who are well. We need to stop, I think, complaining about so many little things and realize that there are some really big things out there.
And because we do have so many people on Zoom, I want to make sure there isn't anybody else who wanted to share anything. I would like to share the fact that we are so lucky that we uphold this part of our time together as sacred, as well as the message and the singing. It's a big deal that we make space for each other. When I was in the UU Church in San Diego, which is like 1,200 people, there's no way that would have ever happened. There would be no chance for that connection. So although we are small and we wish to grow, right now we have the opportunity every Sunday to hold each other's needs and joys together. And so for those that aren't expressed, I'll drop a stone in the water. So please stand if you are willing and able, and we will sing our closing hymn. Yeah, that's okay. It was missing, but we got it.
We laugh, we cry, we live, we die, we dance, we sing our song. We need to feel there's something here to which we can belong. We need to feel the the freedom just to have some time alone. But most of all, we need close friends we can call our very own. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found a need to be together. We have our hearts to give, we have our thoughts to receive, and we believe that sharing is an answer. A child is born among us and we feel a special glow. We see time's endless journey as we watch the baby grow. We thrill to hear imagination freely running wild. We dedicate our minds and hearts to the spirit of this child. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found a time to be together. And with the grace of age, we share the wonder of youth. And we believe that growing is an answer. Our lives are full of wonder and our time is very brief. The death of one among us fills us all with pain and grief. But as we live, so shall we die, and when our lives are done, the memories we shared with friends, they will linger on and on. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found a place to be together. We have the right to grow. We have the gift to believe that peace within our living is an answer. We seek elusive answers to the questions of this life. We seek to put an end to all the waste of human strife. We search for truth, equality. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. Sorry, guys, I breathed the wrong way during that.
In light of the story thing, sharing is an answer. That was
Yep.
wonderful. And we come together in this place to find the answers, the stories we tell. Our closing words are also a set of quotes. And the first one from Jane Addams from 20 Years at Hull House. The greatest gift we can give one another is the willingness to see the world through each other's eyes. And from Martin Buber in I and Thou, altruism is not a sacrifice of self, it is the expansion of self to include the other. And lastly, from Paulo Freire, Pedagogy of the Oppressed, the most powerful resolution is the one that turns the heart inward and then outward, turning love into action. Our service is concluded. Let's all go to the Quimby room and enjoy, and you guys in the virtual one.